Stronger After Stroke podcast. I'm your host, Rosa Hart, the stroke nurse navigator for Norton Healthcare. Today, I have a special guest, Dawne Gee. She's here today to speak to us as a stroke survivor. She's also well known in our community. I would say a pillar of the community.
Well, you're very kind.
Not just because you're on the news, Wave 3 news, and several different time slots, but you also volunteer a lot around town, and so I think people who don't even watch the news know who you are just from in-person interactions. I moved to Louisville in 2010, and in the first year, I think you were like the first person I recognized on the street, and I was like, I know somebody here.
Yeah, I do cool. The news like that's what pay my bills, but what feeds my heart and my soul and what really keeps me going today is what I'm able to do to make a difference.
Yeah.
So I have to do the news because like I like to eat a lot. So
that's fair.
I have to get a paycheck.
Well, and now you might even get invited to like a judge cooking competitions, and then you get to eat for free. So
see, I don't like to judge anything. I
know,
learned,
it's hard.
Yeah, that when you like judge things, you know, people's emotions like
they do
are involved in that.
They do.
It's really hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how long have you been working at Wave 3?
29 years.
Okay, so that's like home for you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but it's so funny when you stand up. This true story. I have so many true stories. Like I'm always telling true stories. But I said something to one of the young reporters about something that Eddie Murphy did. And she turned around and went, "Did he used to work here?" And I went, okay. I am officially old.
Oh.
And I was like, remember Eddie Murphy? Eddie Murphy. Remember he had the red leather jumpsuit on and he looked really good, like comedian Eddie. And she just looked at me and I went, wow.
Oh my.
Wow. Or I'll say, oh, anybody remember Dave Demon? And I just look around the room and it's like dead quiet. And I said, I got to stop doing that. Because nobody remembers. Only you remember.
Well, at least they were playing along.
No, they don't play along. They just look at me like, oh, the poor old lady, she's talking again.
Well, I love listening to you.
But that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
The goal, for me, the goal is to get old, right? You learn that
success
fast.
Story.
That the goal is to get old. You learn that fast when you're laying on a gurney and you're thinking, am I going to survive this? Like... You know, and I'll try not to get emotional. I'm probably going to get emotional, but you learn that when you're thinking, am I going to see my family again? Yeah. You know, and you're well, I mean, anybody can go at any time, but you're thinking, I've not lived enough. I've not lived enough.
Right. There's more to do.
So the goal for me is to get old. I'm 60. That's right. I count my years. I say my age because that is my goal. My goal is to get old.
That's a wonderful goal.
Yes, it is.
And to live fully, which you are doing.
Fully, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And making an impact for others.
I hope so.
Yeah. So today I want to talk about your experience having a stroke. And I really appreciate you being willing to open up. And even if you do get emotional, that's okay. That's part of the human experience.
And stop me at any time because I will chatter. Stop me when you want to say something and say, okay, that's good. But what we want to know is, because it's just also overwhelming and I don't quite know the meaning of it yet. And
okay. Well, let's start with your stroke story. Tell us what happened that day.
I honestly still don't know what really happened. Can I start with the week of?
Definitely.
Okay. So that week, I didn't feel good. And my legs looked like, what's the name of that marshmallow man that was in Ghostbusters? You know, that, well, he's got a name. I know somebody out there knows. Again, I'm showing my age. But he's like my legs were huge, like huge.
Swollen.
Like huge. I still have pictures of them on my phone. And I felt really bad. And I said, what is going on? So I went to my doctor and she said, I don't know what's going on. And so they, took vitals and did all that. And kind of let me go. And then I went to, about a day later, maybe 2 days later, I went to an immediate care. And again, huge. And they said, we don't know what's going on. So they gave me compression socks.
Mm-hmm.
I put those on and I went, I felt bad. And when I say I felt bad, I can't even explain that.
In a way you hadn't felt
In
bad
a way
before.
I hadn't felt before. Like I was just struggling. And I'm not one to call in and say, can't go to work, sorry, not feeling, I'm going to get up and go to work. I had a pulmonary embolism and I went to work. Okay, does that?
Wow.
All right. So the day before I had the stroke, I went to the emergency room. So they checked for a blood clot in my legs and couldn't find it. And so again, they sent me home. So on the day that I had the stroke, okay, that's what it was. It was Thanksgiving. It was around Thanksgiving. I had to think, why did we have Santa there? Santa was there. And he picked me up, and it was Santa Walt, as a matter of fact. And he picked me up, and he hugged me, and he put me down, and he whispered in my ear, what's going on? And I was really tearful, and I said, Santa, I'm sick. And he said, what's the matter? I said, I don't know. And then my mother calls, and she said, what's the matter with you? God, you look bad.
And you're like, thanks, Mom.
Thank you, Mom. I do TV. I appreciate it. And she said, you look really bad. You should go home. And I don't go home.
Yeah.
And I went and I thought, can I comb my hair different, more makeup? What is it? About 45 minutes later, my son called, who never does this. He goes, hey, Ma, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. He goes, you kind of look bad today. My son never says that. I'm like, what? Like, really, family? Thank you. And I just thought, this is all I got, people. I don't feel good today.
It's not like you hadn't gone to the doctor to find out.
Well,
right?
and I didn't even think about that then at that time. And I knew I felt bad, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what to do. I had done everything everybody had told me to do. I was wearing compression socks, and I knew I felt bad. And then at the 7 o'clock news, I was just like, you got an hour, girlfriend. You can do an hour in a blizzard with tigers gnawing at your legs. Get in here and get it done. And I walked in there and I thought, get it done. And I was like, get it done, get it done. And I was standing there and I had to throw to Kevin Harnett doing the weather. And I did. And it got to the point where I said, you got to rest. And I remember plopping down on the floor and I was rubbing my legs and I thought, now you've got to get up because he's going to throw back up to you. And I could tell that he was, and I was thinking clearly at that time. So I was thinking, I heard all that. I thought, you're going to have to get up because you've got to be standing up. You've got to do the news. And I thought, get up, get up, get up. And I remember grabbing hold to the desk and pulling myself up. And I thought, just lean, stand up straight, but just lean on the desk. You can do this. When he threw back to me, you have prompters. I saw the words, and in my head, I read them. Well, I didn't read them. I'm not really sure what was happening.
Something else came out of your mouth.
I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, at that point, I wasn't understanding. I'm not sure what happened. I don't even remember.
Have you ever gone back and watched it?
No.
No, that's fine.
No. And I got very angry at the people who sent it to me. How dare you? That was the worst experience of my life. How dare you say, oh, Dawn, here you are having a stroke. Why would you do that to me? I got thousands of those. And I just delete.
Wow.
I wasn't going to, I haven't seen it. Maybe one day I will. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And they had me, when I came back, and it was the year anniversary, write just kind of the year anniversary. And I wrote it, and they said, Dawn, what do we do when you get to that point where you have the stroke? I said, you make that decision, but I'm not looking at it. And so they didn't. They kind of got to right before I had the stroke and faded to black. We didn't put it in there.
Okay.
But my daughter said, it's funny the way she explained it. My daughter said, you know how when we're in trouble? And I said, yes. She said, you started leaning forward like that. When my kids are in trouble, I'm kind of like this. Let me tell you something. And I start getting real close to them because I'm going to let me let you know. That's how I talk to my kids when they're in trouble. And I start getting soft and say, I'm going to explain it to you. Real simple. I get right to them. She said, you started getting close to the camera like that. And she said, you went down and your head hit the desk.
Oh.
And you went down. And she said, at first I thought, God, Mom's passionate about that story. She said, because why is she coming so close to the camera? And then she thought, it's not really making sense. And my daughter said, okay. She said, you know, we've got a problem. And I don't remember it.
Yeah.
And the first thing I remember after that is a light, nothing, light, nothing. And I think what that was is I was laying on a gurney and it had to have been the lights on the ceiling.
Mm-hmm. While you're moving. Yeah, that's possible. Once you were informed after the fact of what had happened, what thoughts went through your mind and how did you feel?
So the first time that I remember finding out that I had a stroke, I remember just little bits and pieces. Like I remember I was laying on something and they were removing my clothing, trying to do different stuff. And I have a gastric stimulator, so they couldn't do an MRI. So things were really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to
identify what the problem was.
Right. And it was just all so crazy. But I didn't have any directives to anyone.
No advance directives for your family?
Let me tell everybody, get advance. You should. I was young. I am young. I don't care whether you think I'm young. I'm saying I'm young. But you should have directives. Everybody should have directives. You don't know what's going to happen in your life. And I saw my kids arguing, right? So my mom comes in. My mom said she didn't faint. She was just thrown off a bit. But my kids said they knew they were, I won't use the word they knew they were in trouble. Let's say that word.
Yeah.
When my mom went down, because she makes all the decisions, and I saw my daughter and my two sons yelling. So they wanted to give me a drug called TPA.
Mm-hmm. Also known as Alteplase.
Alteplase, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And my boys were yelling and crying, and my daughter was, and then a doctor came in. I want to say his name was Dr. Spain. I really don't know what his name was.
Okay.
This dude here, his bedside manner, I appreciate him, but he cut to the chase. Let's just say that. Yeah. He walked in, he looked at my kids, and he goes, your mother's window is closing. That's all he said, and he walked out. And so the kids are yelling and screaming, and my daughter looks at my sons and goes, shut up. And she took the piece of paper and she signed it. And that's when I just started thinking, you don't have anything in your life in place. You didn't tell anybody what you wanted. And it was just, and I thought, this is like serious, like window closing. What does that mean? And I thought, wait a minute, stroke. And then I realized, girlfriend, you can't move. Like, I can't move. Like, I couldn't move.
You were used to being able to psych yourself up to do things like you were leaning on the desk.
I was slow at particular times in my life. I have RA and lupus, but I ain't never not been able to move. Now, this side I could kind of control. This side was not playing. And so they gave me that TPA, and a nurse came in and sat down by my side. Like this was like serious. And they explained, everything. And I thought, I don't even, like, for me, I thought, I'm done. Like, how am I going to take care of myself? Like, am I going to be dead after that? Like, I just didn't know. And I know people were explaining things, but I wasn't catching up. Like, I just wasn't all there. And my children were there. But after seeing them scream at each other, even, I thought, I ain't even got nobody that can make decisions. Like, what? Like, they're going to kill each other before, it was just So that was the madness of that night.
When did your symptoms start to reverse after getting the medicine?
So I'm laying there. They gave me the TPA. My kids were still arguing, and I raised my head up kind of and yelled something at them. And when I did, they yelled back at me, and I thought, whoa, why is everybody yelling? And they said, you moved your head. And we all just started crying. Y'all gonna make me have to do my makeup again. And I just thought, hold up, girlfriend, like, don't X yourself out already, because there's hope. I could not do anything before then. And just within an hour's time of them giving me something in an IV, I lifted my head again. And then I felt my hand do this, and my kids like were just, and I saw my mama in the corner of the room, just quiet. And that's was for about 3 months, never leaving my side, just in the corner of the room, never say anything, just crocheting there in the corner of the room, watch everything that was going on. And that's what the next months looked like. Little bitty steps, things that I couldn't do, but whatever that was. And that drug, they either house here or make here or something like that, and I didn't know that. And when the people found out that I took it, they wrote me a note and said, we just want to see somebody that was saved by the drug. And like, you can't bring your phone in, you can't do all of that. And it was the most emotional thing when I walked in to meet those people. And everybody just started crying, and the whole group ran and they hugged me. And I was like, thank you for doing your job. And they said, nobody ever thanks us. You know, it's always the nurses and the doctors. And I was just so grateful. And I thought, you know, maybe I won't make it back to work, but maybe I'll make it home. But look at me, you know, I am back to work and I'm doing what I love. And yes, my left foot drops. I drop everything, but I'm still, look, I'm here.
Yeah. And you were able to go back to work. And
I was able. I can do anything that I want to do. Do I do it the same as I did? No, but who cares?
Right. So I'm so thankful for your testimony to this, because there are so many of those conversations like your children had where they had to decide, is it worth the risk for the benefit? And when you come in with those stroke symptoms, then you're very likely to be stuck with the symptoms you came in with unless you get a treatment like alteplase to reverse them.
But you have to think about things like that kind of beforehand.
Yeah.
You have to talk, and I know nobody wants to talk about things like that, but you know, I was talking in the room that you know, my father's going through some health things. I heard him at the window. They were like, do you have a living will? No. Do you have it? And I was just like, he has nothing. You should have all of that.
Yeah.
Once you are a grown adult, 20 years old even, you should have all that. What if you have an accident?
Well, and this is a good time to point out that if you don't have that, and maybe you thought you have to pay an expensive lawyer to make things like that, you can actually get them made for free and get them notarized. And some things like a will, I think you just need a witness that's
Let
not
your family
in the will.
know.
So yeah.
Tell somebody where they are.
Or tell the other, like in the case of your siblings, like this is the sibling who's the decision maker.
Yes.
Like, because some people
And
don't
you better
want to
think
make
about
decisions.
who it is.
Right. Do they want me to leave? But yeah, it just letting people know who can make decisions makes such a difference in expediting care for things like that.
It's real. If you ever would have asked me, you know, do you think you could ever have a stroke? No. I'm invincible. I still think I'm invincible. But yeah, that would never cross a stroke. Nobody in my family had ever had a stroke.
Yeah.
Nobody. Cancer, all day long.
No.
All day long. Stroke, mm-mm.
So let's talk about life after the stroke. You were sent home, and then from there...
Well, I was in rehab forever.
Oh, like how long?
Like
3 months, did you say?
about, yeah. It was, and I fought, and I was mean, and I hated my therapist. I tried. I would say, I don't feel good today. I'm not going to do therapy. And they would go, okay, Miss G, which shoes would you like to do today? And I said, but I'm not going to do it. And they say, these black ones look good. And they would put them on my feet. And like, what am I going to do? I can't fight them. And then they put them on my feet and they wheel my chair over and I go, yeah, but I don't feel good. And then, you know, they lift you, they get you in the chair and then I'm in the chair and they're wheeling me down there. And I go, God, I feel really sick. Well, they listen to you when they say those words.
You learned the key word.
Right. And everybody runs over, they prick my finger, they check my blood sugar, they check my blood pressure, they check my temperature, they do all that. Everything's perfect. They go, she all right. She's right. So then they roll me over there and they make me do stuff and then they would make me walk. I can't lift my leg. Do you get what I'm saying? And they got that little whatever that strap
The
is.
gate belt.
Yeah, and so somebody's holding you up back there and they go, lift your leg. I can't lift my leg. I'm pissed, right? I'm just pissed at the world.
Yeah.
And so I would drag my leg. They had these things you had to lift your feet over. I wasn't hearing it. And I would just drag my leg through all of them, just knock them down like bowling balls because I wasn't doing it. So then my daughter would stand on them. I couldn't knock them. She's standing on them. So now I'm really pissed. So then
Your daughter's got your number.
right. And I'm competitive. So one of the nurses noticed she is competitive. So they got these games out.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, yeah, we were watching. We can certainly beat you at this. And I said, what? And she was like, we can beat you at this. And we started playing. I whooped them all. And they were like, this is how we get her. This is how we get her. And so that's, you know, it just started going. Once, though, they sat me in my wheelchair and they said, you need to go to lunch. And I said, well, who's going to push me down there? They said, well, yourself down there. You know where your room is. I said, I'm not wheeling myself down there. And they said, that's your wheelchair. And I was like, this is not my wheelchair. And they're like, looks like it is. And I was like, I'm not doing it. They let me sit there for an hour. And then finally I was like, I am hungry. And so I had to wheel. I didn't want to wheel. I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want to feel like that was my chair. So I had to get over things. The hardest part was I had to cook one day because I love to cook.
Yeah.
And I had to go in the kitchen. And I got in the kitchen. I couldn't think. It didn't come easy.
Things that were automatic before, you had to be very intentional about every step.
I just didn't understand the recipe. I didn't, and I sat in that kitchen and I cried for an hour. But it came, you know, all of that came. But they didn't let you not do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't let you not do it. And I think is it occupational where they make you do math and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I looked at the lady. I said, I couldn't do math before I came in here. I can't do math. Oh, leave me alone.
She's like, you will when you leave.
Right. I was like, I don't even balance my checkbook. I bank by faith. I swipe it and say, come on, Lord. And I was like, leave me alone. And they wouldn't. They just kept on. So that was just hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Physical and especially occupational therapists do not get enough credit for how much they make you work.
When I left them, I loved them with all my heart. I love them to this day, to the point I go up there sometimes and just bring them a cake. I just walk in and go, hey, me, cake. And I leave. That's it. One of them had a baby. I went up there and saw the pictures and so happy and celebrated with her. And I know they're like, my God, you don't have to come back now. Go. We have other people. But if they would have taken my no, but they don't take your no.
Because they're getting you back to being independent.
They will not take your no. And I'm not an ugly person. I'm never ugly, but I was in a dark space. I took depression, and I swear to you, I wrapped it around myself like a blanket. I'm not sure why I did that. I've never done that in my life. I just felt like I couldn't make it. I couldn't move. I couldn't do things for myself. I couldn't even wash my own body. Where do you go from there? You know, what do you do from that? I'm an independent person. I wasn't married anymore, you know. I make my own money. I take care of the community, and I can't even take care of myself. It was a hard time. you know, and they were pushing me and I couldn't do it. And you see, I can't do it. Leave me alone. And they went, put your shoes on. I was like, these chicks here. I mean, I just wanted to punch them in the face, but I love them.
So I'm so thankful that you were willing to discuss feeling that depression after stroke, because it is so common and so many people are afraid to admit that it's happening to them.
Yeah.
But what has helped you to transition through that depression season?
Well, I mean, they made me do it. You know, them, you know.
The care team?
The care team who said, okay, you may not be able to do it right now, but let's try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, okay, you can't do it today, but guess what? Guess what happens in 24 hours? Another day. Oh my goodness, another day. We're going to try it tomorrow.
So even when you didn't have hope for yourself,
I had
other
zero
people...
hope. I was pissed.
Yeah.
And when I get pissed, everybody move. Move. It's a palpable thing. You know, when I'm angry, get out of the way. Yeah, and they didn't, it's almost like they didn't listen. They didn't take it personal.
Right.
That's what was important. They didn't take it personal either, so they didn't treat me different, you know, because what if they hated me? That could have been a really not good thing. And they, I don't know that they loved me, but they act like they did, and they treated me nicely, and they cared for me, and
they had hope for you.
They had hope for me. Yeah. And they didn't let me get away with any, I want to use, let's just say BS. They didn't let me get away with any BS. They just didn't.
Yeah.
Not
that your feelings weren't real. Not that your feelings weren't real, based in reality,
and
but they're like, we're not going to stay here.
And I think they got it. Yeah. And they let me hold those, but only for about 120 seconds. And then even my mother, you know, when my mother was sitting in there, and I swear to you, it'd be 3 a.m, I look over, there was my mother crocheting. I don't know when she slept. I swear I don't know when she slept. But, you know, my mother got to one point where she said, you got 5 minutes. I give you 5 minutes to cry. And then she said, and then shut up. And she says that today, all of us, if we got a problem, you got 5 minutes to cry. And then after those 5 minutes, you better start figuring some stuff out. And in our family, that's kind of how it is. Now, when I had the stroke, she gave me a little leeway for a little while. You know, she didn't say anything. She let the, you know, folks that were caring for me. But yeah, they were wonderful.
That's really helpful. I think I might have to steal that from your mom.
Yeah,
like it can be give this 5 minutes, and then we're going to
even in our worst times, you know, even in the times like when I had kidney cancer or stomach cancer or brain tumor, she went 5 minutes, and then we start figuring this stuff out.
So can you talk any about the stigma of stroke? Like, at what point in your recovery did you feel like you were ready to return to work?
Okay, so I'm stupid. Oh yes, it is that word. Like, I don't have any sense. I don't know if I'm trying to prove something to somebody else or to myself, or I'll have surgery and go back to work the next day. That's no joke. That is no joke. I have done that before. And my doctor, I just adored him so. And I can remember saying to him, I have to cook Christmas dinner.
After your stroke at Thanksgiving? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Oh.
And he's like, no, I don't think so. I'm just like, sorry. You know.
You're like, so, this is on the agenda.
This is on the agenda, buddy. You know, and so.
Well, you're really good at goal setting then.
Oh, gosh. You know, we had this goal, and so I'm arguing, and then finally when I, you know, got out, and I had these things to do, and I had planned my family was going to come over when I got out, and I did like 4 days after I got out of the hospital, and I couldn't even lift my leg at that point, but I cooked dinner for everybody, and it was delicious.
Well, okay.
Now, it took me seriously almost 20 hours to do it. And my mother said, "Why are you doing this?" I was like, "Mama, you handle your house, I handle mine." And she was like, "Okay," and I usually don't talk to my mom, and she let me get away with it just for that. But and then I returned to work, and I remember returning to work, and we were standing and doing the news at that time, and I remember standing there going, "Uh-oh, I don't think I can stand here." And then I was like, "Hey, can I sit during commercials?" And somebody was like, "Get down a chair," and they got me the chair, and I was like, "Oh, thank Jesus." And I sat down, and I was able, to then get up. And I thought, what did I do to myself? And I can remember sitting at my desk going, "Okay, now how are we going to get through this day?" Now I did. And I made it through the day. So I said, okay, if you made it through today, then you should be able to make it through tomorrow. But I do dumb things like that. I don't suggest anybody do that. Take care of yourself.
And a lot of times, after a stroke, if you overexert yourself one day, then you're even more wiped out.
It's almost like a Jenga. It starts adding up, and you wonder when the whole thing is going to fall.
Yeah.
And for me, especially on my left side, when I get really tired, my left foot, it just kind of decides, okay, I will not respond. And even if I go up steps, it catches. And then it's like I have to keep from falling. Everything I drop everything. Like I have burns on myself from trying to curl my hair, and I can't hold the curlers, and I drop them. So I've learned to jump out of the way. I jump out, and I have to make sure my dogs aren't down there either, because I'll burn them. So they kind of know, oh, she's got the curlers, everybody move. And I've also learned, this is so stupid, you know how you catch things like that? I did that. Like I dropped it, and you know how you go, oh, catch it. Don't catch a hot curler.
Not when it's hot.
So you learn things.
So did you learn to rest?
No.
Okay. Or take
You
breaks?
heard me use the word STU.
Right.
Okay.
My dad told me ignorance is correctable, but stupidity is forever.
It's forever.
But I was giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Ma'am.
I have hope for you.
Listen to your father.
Okay.
Listen to your father.
Okay. So as a public figure going back into the public eye, when you went back to work, were you afraid at all of what anybody else would think?
No, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm not living this life for you.
Okay.
Yeah. What I was bothered by, and often bothered by, people knew I had a stroke. And people would call and say, well, I need you to, well, I'm not able to do that. I've had a stroke, and I need to not do this and this and this and this. And nobody cared. But we need you to do, and people want you when they want you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you had to set those boundaries for
yourself.
yourself.
And I don't set them good. I try, though, but I don't do that well either. Yeah.
If you could go back in time and speak to yourself in those first days or weeks after the stroke, what would you tell yourself?
You know who's in control. God always has you. Trust in that love and power, and what He has planned for you. Make sure you thank your family more than you do, and all those people that are around you to love and help you. And I really do hope that I thank them enough. I do. I really do.
We can always try for more. Right?
Yeah, but I do know that if I didn't, my mom did. My mom makes these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful roses. She takes a Hershey's Hug and a Hershey's Kiss and puts them together, and she puts this red on them, and they look exactly like roses. Oh. And she puts them on a stick, and then she wraps this green around them and puts leaves on them. I promise you, they look exactly like a rose. They look exactly like rose. And she kept a bouquet of them on my tray. So when somebody came to sweep the room, we would say, thank you for caring for me. When somebody brought my tray, thank you for caring for me. when somebody came to take me to physical therapy. Thank you for caring for me. Kind of you throw those.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah. Taking me to physical therapy.
What would you tell other survivors?
It's hard. It sucks. It's not fair. But look inside yourself, and there's strength in there that you never would have imagined. Cut yourself a break and take care of yourself. And allow people to love and take care of you. You know, don't try to figure out, well, do try to figure out why if you're not eating right and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, don't look for the why, just get better. And remember to enjoy life. Yeah, remember to enjoy life.
Well, thank you so much for modeling that, because I think I have seen you taking so much joy in life.
I love, and I just wish everybody was happy. I wish everybody was respected and cared for and had what they needed. If I could provide that, wouldn't that just be the best if we could do that for each other?
Definitely. Mm-hmm. So if we can at least provide space for each other, to hear each other's stories, maybe we can learn something to make it better, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that with us. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you about you want to make sure to share?
But I will just say this. I knew my blood pressure was high. Mm-hmm. I knew I rushed around too much. I knew a lot of things. Mm-hmm. I knew that.
You knew the risk factors.
I knew the risk factors. I knew them. I knew my cholesterol was high. I knew I didn't get enough sleep. I knew a lot of those things. I knew I didn't rest. I knew I kept hours too long. I knew all of that. And I kept right on burning that candle, both ends, middle, trying to use the old wax. I kept doing it. I don't know if that's what did it, but.
Were you able to modify any of those things? I know you said you didn't learn to rest, so that's a moot point.
I eat better.
Good.
Yeah. I don't worry so much.
Good. Stress is an independent risk factor for stroke.
Yeah,
so
I don't worry so much.
Mm-hmm. As much as we want to help people, we can't save everybody, right?
Yeah, you can't save everybody.
But we can focus on the person right in front of us, right?
Yeah. So just think about those things. They matter.
They do. Thank you so much for being with me today. And thank you for listening to Stronger After Stroke with Dawne Gee. And we'll see you in the next episode.